is a clip from Andrew Marr that's been going around. I think this just sums it up. The way people talked about the adults back in the room and stuff.
Sit back in your comfortable trousers, easy slacks and slippers, and enjoy.
I think just having a stable government that will be there for 5, maybe 10 years, who knows, but with sort of ordinary, down-to-earth, serious people talking like the rest of us in charge of the government, and a plan that doesn't shift very much for investment, is going to mean a wall of money coming into this country from around the world. You look at the chaos going on the continent, particularly in France. You look at the chaos likely ahead in the United States. And suddenly, for once, for the first time in many of our lives, actually Britain looks like a little haven of peace and stability.
There it is.
I mean, honestly, and, you know, this guy is a very experienced, Andrew Marr, very experienced political commentator. But he exposed himself there because he's of the left. Occasionally he says something sensible politically. You know, he's quite an astute commentator, like I say. Don't want to take away the man's career. But that was Rory Stewart level stupid.
It was strange. But
I call it his Michael Fish moment, when people of a certain vintage will know what I'm talking about, where in October of '87, Michael Fish, we've had a phone call from a lady who said, I've heard there's going to be a hurricane on the way, but that's absolutely ridiculous. And then obviously the very night we had Britain's worst hurricane in living history, which devastated large parts of the south coast.
Yeah, it partly feels like wishful thinking or trying to breathe it into being, the idea of saying, oh, look, here we are, it's so stable with Labour, we're doing so well. It sort of feels like they want it to be true and they're trying to make it true. But it seemed absurd even at the time, because it was clearly a loveless landslide, to use that term. And, you know, now Marr is writing pieces in New Statesman about why Labour has to do something about immigration or they're in big trouble. And he's now kind of realizing his dream is over. And if you look at this piece as well, actually, from today in the New Statesman from Marr, he says, Farage rises, Burnham watches, but Starmer fights on. So he's basically saying, he's admitting that Starmer's on the ropes and he is the underdog versus Farage now. But he also says Andy Burnham is thinking about running against Starmer to really take him out. So that's another interesting angle.
Yeah, I think that's totally true with Andy Burnham. I think that's been in the making for years. You know, he was quite a prominent Labour opposition MP before he took on the role, or won the role of Manchester Mayor. The only other person I see coming into it and spicing it up is Sadiq Khan. I think he'd fail. I think outside the London bubble, his reputation isn't good amongst Labour supporters, and I don't mean amongst anybody else. But Andy Burnham, definitely somebody, and particularly now with Angela Rayner gone, because she would have been the biggest tip for Prime Minister. But of course, unfortunately for her, that's not possible anymore. Not for a while, or not certainly in the time frame I think we're going to see Keir Starmer step down. Fascinating time to be commentating on politics. And of course, it's not, you know, it would be unfair to say that Andrew Marr's a terrible commentator, because he's not. And I think what's happened now is politics has been a convention, a two-party convention for 100 years, for a century. And the people have become very skilled political commentators like Marr, even Beth Rigby, are now finding themselves in uncharted territory, and they don't know how to commentate because they just cannot predict. It does not work within the convention. And what Nigel Farage is doing to the convention is dismantling it. And he's saying it's going to crumble. It is crumbling. And these people don't know how to commentate on it anymore.